Tony, we just
What,
couldn't avoid the storm.
what are you talking about? Storm Norton's playing for the Saints this year.
No. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Nuts and Bolts. Season premiere of season 3 doing this. Can't believe it's already been 3 years, Tony. Tony, I was not referencing that storm, but that is a storm that we have made it out of, at least.
Yeah, going down there to be the backup to Trevor Penning, the guy that every Chargers fan was like, I'm going to rip my face off if we take Trevor Penning in the first round. Like he was the most polarizing draft pick that never ended up on the Chargers. Like I went I basically like quit being on Twitter because I couldn't handle how they were bashing this guy that was never going to be on our roster.
Yeah, that was quite a time. Everyone was like, anyone but Penning at that point. Look at Zero in here coming over from the MJT football channel. We're going live on Nuts and Bolts. This has to be an April Fool's Day joke. Nope, no jokes here. Season premiere on April 1st, Zero, on Boltomania. That's what today is. Boltomania. We're covering every single topic of the offseason so far to cover, including departures, addition. See how I didn't say plural? Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert. The draft, everything. We're back. We're excited.
Yeah. I wanted to open up the show with a joke that Eckler had been traded, but I emotionally
you can't
handle that. Like I can't even handle making a joke about that because I will lose my mind if that actually happens. Don't go, baby, don't go.
Well, Zero's here in person, so I'll spoil it for the one person that's here. Zero. I do have an April Fool's joke TikTok dropping today, so get ready. Nice. Zero will be the only one in on the joke, but let's start us off here, Tony. Have you recovered from 27-0 yet? That is brutal.
So this is the thing is that like the older I get, the more aggravating it is in the moment, but I just have more distractions, right? But like before kids, that my team losing would sit with me for a really long time. But unfortunately, I can't sit there and dwell on it as long as I used to. And you guys know, like you and Joe, who we're in a text thread with, I didn't answer my phone or messages for like 4 days because I couldn't form a sentence about the Chargers without cussing incessantly. So it was like, yes, there was a little bit of anger with how things ended and decisions that were made and things that didn't happen. But like, I do think that there is a certain process and a certain opportunity when you have the right guys to do it. And since the team still has Justin Herbert, then I believe that's the right guy and the right mentality and everything to go. You know, like to head in the direction that we would like to see the team go, which is winning, playing for a Super Bowl. Like,
yeah,
first step.
Let's get through the first playoff round first, and then we'll talk about the next 2 rounds, because in the NFL, it's not like you got to go through, 16 teams to get to the end. At the end of it, I mean, you do technically, but you only have to go through the AFC. But yeah, I'm recovered, I think, Tony. I think I can officially say I've recovered from 27-0. I think with the whole content creation thing being thrown into the mix of my fandom, I already was a crazy fan before. One of those maniacs that is completely affected, and his whole week determines on whether or not the team won or lost. But I think just adding in there that the trolls are there to constantly remind me now for probably the rest of my life, 27-0 in the comment section, that kind of irked me more than anything, because it was kind of like a this is happening again type moment. But now for me, it's amplified times a million. I'm not just the random Chargers fan. I'm the Chargers fan that the Raiders fans want to see crying in the shower. That's what I am now. So it's a little bit tougher for me.
That feels extremely personal, and I think you should be charging more for them to watch you cry in the shower. I'll say this. I think what we saw last year is going to become less of an outlier and more of a trend, right? Because the rules are going towards advantage offense. So we're going to see more of these big comebacks. Like what we saw Brady do in that Super Bowl against Atlanta was sort of the beginning of how I think postseasons can go. But you have to be able to have a legit trigger man to make these comebacks happen. We've already seen Patrick Mahomes be down double-digit points multiple times, and the team can come back. With the way that everything is set up, it's set up for offense, which I think at some point when we talk about the draft is like a no-brainer what the first-round pick should be in this upcoming draft. At least which side of the ball it should be. Maybe not exact player, but like which side of the ball. I think that they are progressing in the right direction to change that, Mike. Like when we think about like what's going to happen if they're the team that's down 27 points. I feel this strongly that Herbert could have been on the other side of that coming back. Now with Joe Lombardi there, I don't know if that was happening, but we got a new guy.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, and we can get into it. While we're talking about the 27-0 and talking about what we lost in last year's playoffs, we also could talk about the players that we lost real quick. I feel like I'm recovered. Tony feels like he's recovered. We're ready. We're rejuvenated for this next season. I'm not going to go into this season pointing at rings that are invisible. I'm not going to go to this next season as excited as I was last offseason because of the additions that we had just made. But I'm still very excited. Like you said, the Chargers have a team that is either going to be completely collapsed by this or is going to respond and be even better. We saw them get better after losing that Raiders game a few years ago. And now we can get better after losing this playoff game. But get better by subtraction? I don't know. Good thing we didn't lose any of the key players. There were rumors we might lose Keenan Allen. There were rumors we might lose a guy like Khalil Mack. And we're going to talk about Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert's contracts here in a couple topics. But here's the list of players, and maybe I missed someone, so let me know in the chat or let me know, Tony, if I forgot somebody. Braden Fajoko's going to the Steelers. DeAndre Carter's going to the Raiders. I'm not sure if Troy Reader signed yet. I want to say he signed with the Vikings. I'm not 100% certain. Storm Norton is a New Orleans Saint. Drew Tranquill is leaving the Chargers and will be a Kansas City Chief. And I believe Joe Gaziano has signed with another team as well, but I don't have the team listed here. He's gone. He's a death piece. Of these departures, though, Tony, which one's going to hurt you the most?
I don't know if it's the most impactful, but it's definitely going to be a loss for me as like the entertainment side. And that's Fajoko, right? Mm-hmm. Like he just is a lot of fun. The family was a lot of fun. Last year at the preseason game when his dad started dancing with his jersey, when we were there, my wife was like, "Who is this?" And I was like, "That's fatherly pride. That's what it looks like when your son makes it to the NFL and he's playing in a game. Like he's just like going nuts. He's like pec flexing and sticking his tongue out." And
yeah, I remember that.
It was just very entertaining. And I think that he's one of those guys that like has strong opinions and is a fun person to root for, like, and I think he really did like work hard and was a good example of the journey in the NFL. Like coming from LSU and winning a national championship and being on like one of the best college football teams ever, having to fight his way through the practice squad. If you're on Twitter and Fajoko, you see him with his golfing journey. It's like, bro, you ain't meant to golf. Like, don't get that frustrated over that sport. Like, it's not. You're like the only person who kind of looks like you is John Daly, bro, and he's done. So, like, golfers look more like Herbert or Keenan Allen. They don't look like Braden Fajoko. I'm gonna miss him. Like, he was fun.
Yeah, I think the locker room's gonna miss him a ton too. He's a perfect fit in our locker room, and he's a good run stuffer when you need him. And there's a few games in there where having him as a depth piece ready to come up and play was almost game-saving in certain situations. So he also was a solid player. Wish him luck in Pittsburgh. He's going to fit in with those guys too. He definitely is. It's going to be fun. I'm going to go with Drew Tranquill. We just have to talk about Drew Tranquill anyways. So I'm going to pick Drew Tranquill. I think that Fajoko would be mine until I saw that Drew Tranquill was going to the Chiefs. That just poured extra salt in my wound, losing Drew Tranquill, especially on a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Chargers really couldn't do that to keep him around. Even with adding Eric Kendricks, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, I feel like Drew Tranquill, especially now that knowing he went to the Chiefs, was probably the key guy that we lost this offseason. Now, maybe you can be happy that in an offseason where all these contracts were insane and we might have lost some bigger names, that we only lose Drew Tranquill.
Yeah, I think this is back-to-back years of probably not just for me, but for many Chargers fans, is you get a player that's a converted safety to linebacker that overachieves, that's good in coverage, and they're signing cheap deals with other teams.
Yeah.
And then last year, it's like, well, it's fine because Drew's going to step up. And last year, the conversation that drove me nuts was everybody's like, Tranquill's always injured. It's like, first of all, with that kind of mindset, like, stop putting out negativity in your life, but also on the internet that the player might run into. Like, we don't need to do that. Like, it's hard enough for the world. Like, as Chargers fans, we should just be like, it's great. It's going to be the best season of his life. Let's go. If the injury happens, then, complain about it or whatever.
That's why we got Troy Reader.
But I think Troy Reader, you mentioned him on the list. I thought he signed a 2-year contract, like some weird, but maybe not. Maybe he's gone too.
Yeah, he was on the departure list.
There's a guy that's on the practice squad or was on a futures contract that I really enjoyed watching at training camp last year. Damon Lloyd, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And then he ended up with some injury, core muscle or something like that. He's a little undersized, but I really like the way that he plays. And I think he could be a nice surprise if healthy and kind of a nice roster addition, depending on what his special teams abilities are. But as far as the linebacker position goes, it's like, what more did you want from these guys? Do you really think that that's the reason the run defense was so bad, was because of Drew Tranquill? And so then there's all this conversation about money and we got to save and whatever. But then you pay top of the market for a 31-year-old linebacker that overall, yes, I'm excited about Kendricks. But if you're worried about money, wouldn't it have been better to just keep this guy and then maybe go in the second round and get like Drew Saunders from Arkansas or something like that? Like, what's happening? What am I missing?
Yeah, I'm with you. And can you click it over? Because my mouse actually died. I had to plug it in.
Click it over to what?
To the additions, yeah. Does it show for you on the banners?
It would if I was in the right brand. So I'll get it there. You keep talking.
Anyways, yeah, we'll talk about additions now because we're already talking about Eric Kendricks. But I do think that Eric Kendricks is a good scheme fit for the Chargers. I think it is if you were gonna lose Drew Tranquill, which I thought was to money, which clearly wasn't it anymore. I think they lost him because they didn't want to keep him around. Then it would make sense to go get a guy like Eric Kendricks because he does fit the scheme. You need linebackers in the middle of this defense that are gonna hunt, that are going to fly around the football field, that are going to, be an impact in both pass coverage and run stopping. And that's Eric Kendricks. That's what he's done his entire career. It just feels like for the price we paid, you could have kept Drew Tranquill and actually saved money at this point. Saved money.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much it improves the defense, right? Mm-hmm. Like, does it really make a major difference there? I think the major difference will be just another year in the system and cohesion and getting back all the players they lost at D tackle, right? Like, It's almost like the offseason really is just getting players healthy. Austin Johnson getting back, Obonia getting back there, like having all of those big bodies that you had and you thought you were going to have in the middle of the defense ready to go and playing with Sebastian and stuff like that. I think that's more likely what'll help.
I hate to be like this, Tony, because I'm all positive. I want to hype him up. I want to call Eric Kendricks an elite linebacker. You think he's an elite linebacker? Like, elite to me is Fred Warner and Bobby Wagner and a couple other guys.
Yeah, when I think of elite, I think more of Luke Kuechly. Like, that's elite, right? Like the middle linebackers of my time when it was like my heydays, like watching Brian Urlacher or something like that. Patrick Willis for the 49ers. These guys that were absolute monsters. Ray Lewis, all of them. I think he's not in that tier. Like, I wouldn't have him. But he's a very good player.
Very good. Yeah.
And maybe underrated because he played in Minnesota. Like, maybe I just am not thinking enough because Minnesota's defense hasn't been like wow or whatever.
It's actually the opposite of that. It's been
last year when Zimmer was there and he was in his heyday, that defense was legit. Okay. They were never like next level.
Zero's with me here. We're not getting prime Sean Lee Zero. We're getting a good linebacker. All right. I know
Sean Lee was even only healthy for like 48 minutes of a 60-minute football game. Like Sean Lee could have been the dude, but he never.
Who would be their Cowboys linebacker? Talk about
I don't
elite
know. I can't
linebacker.
think of maybe
Old
like
school.
Ken Norton played a season there. Like Ken Norton Senior played a season there, or
Some old
Junior.
school.
Sorry.
There was that was the only player addition, but there was more additions, Tony. For one, Joe Lombardi by subtraction was an addition. No offense to Joe. Well, we got a new offense coordinator in Kellen Moore. This is a good spot to talk about him because we haven't talked about him on the show yet. I'm pretty pumped up for getting Kellen Moore in here and what he's going to do with our offense. The Cowboys have been one of the more efficient offenses in the league over the last couple of years that Kellen Moore has been the offensive coordinator. And what Mike McCarthy said about Kellen Moore was kind of like a negative thing that he said. But to me, I was like getting pumped up because we don't got Dak Prescott. We're not trying to run the ball and just play defense. Our defense kind of stinks. So we're trying to throw the shit out of the ball. So let's do it.
Yeah, I think I made some analogy where it's like you're an artist who's trying to paint and you get upgraded from like, painting with a rock to an actual like beautiful Picasso style paintbrush. And that's maybe unfair to Dak. A fear! What's going on, brother?
He's been waiting to see you, Tony. Just you.
I've been waiting for him.
A lot of broken hearts over here.
I think that last season we got a little hype because of the familiarity of the names, but I think the Chargers can totally be an A+ offseason by Kellen Moore, the addition of him at offensive coordinator, and 2, by the contract of Herbert being something that is like a good situation for the Chargers, right? Like if they get him in there and it's 8 years, $400 million, and it's like, well, Herbert's playing for $50 million a year, but the way the contract is structured, they're still going to be able to do X, Y, and Z over these next 3 years as you have aging, you have aging players on expensive contracts. Like, I know you can only take it 1 year at a time, but if we fast forward into 2024, there's going to be a lot of panic among people when they're like, oh my goodness, we're paying this for Mac, Bosa, Williams, Keenan Allen, and Herbert's contract jumps up to this level. It's like all of those things. So I think the Chargers' major additions will be the people that they re-sign and how the deal is structured with Herbert, right? Because if it ends up in that situation where it's like there's still flexibility, that's great. And then you bring in Kellen Moore. I personally think this is just going to be the season I thought we were going to see last year from Herbert.
Yeah, and especially considering the year before, even with Joe Lombardi's offense, things went extremely well for Herbert. And I just think that the offense relied too much on like the short yardage passing game to open up everything else. When the short yardage passing game, I'd rather use the run game to open up everything else than the short yardage passing game, which hopefully the Chargers offensive line being healthy and maybe we're adding another back in the draft, not necessarily in the first round, but maybe we're adding another back in the draft. It improves. I think that Kellen Moore really is going to have the ability to get in his bag. And if he's got creativity in there as an offensive coordinator, you got the weapons and you got the quarterback to unlock all of that and anything that he could possibly want to do. So hopefully he just gets creative because it seems like last year the Chargers had zero creativity when it came to the scheme and the play calling.
Yeah, and I just want to say one other thing too. Like I think this is really going to help the run game a little bit more, like just even different looks and concepts that'll be run. But there's this notion that like, oh, well, you have Justin Herbert. Like when I listen to the guys, if the guys from PFF were the the offensive coordinator for the Chargers, Justin Herbert will have 1,000 pass attempts this year. No joke. One of the guys was like, well, you got Justin Herbert. You want him dropping back 60 times a game. I was like, hold up. What did you say? You want 60 dropbacks? Like, were you trying to kill your offensive line? Like, you can't ask them to pass block 60 times a game for an entire season. Like, that is ridiculous. But there is a scenario in which the Kellen Moore comes in And everything that he can do, even if it's small for the run game, I think that exponentially makes the passing game that much better, right? Like, even if it's just a little bit more of a threat on the 3rd and 4s where it's like, oh shit, they're in a look where they could hand the ball to Eckler right here and easily pick it up, get to a 4th and 1 or 4th and inches. And then it's like, so you just have to give more looks. Last year at 3rd and 4, they were like, they can't run.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got 3 guys on the line. They'll be fine. Like, let's just drop back and muddy the lanes and try and bat a ball. Like,
I agree with you 100%. I feel like there was almost no situations where teams felt that they needed to bring guys into the box. I think that every team felt that they could defend our running attack with the traditional, box setup that they have in their scheme, whatever they game plan for us that week. And our own defense needs to get better at stopping the run as well. But we'll talk about all of the schemes and training camp and all that stuff as we get into it. Let's talk about this now, Tony. We got 2 contracts coming around the bend here. One might not happen. One is pretty much a lock to happen. But Austin Eckler right now, we'll talk about him first, is kind of on the trade block, kind of not. Staley has said that he wants and the team wants Eckler to stay. But Eckler is saying that the team clearly doesn't want to invest in him for the future, and he doesn't want to play on a team that doesn't want to invest in him for the future. What's your thoughts on this whole entire thing? My thoughts are simple. We need Eckler on this squad at all costs.
I agree. And I am tired of this notion that, like, you can't pay a running back third contract or you can't do whatever. I do think there are certain players and play styles that you cannot play. But if you go and look at some of the people that are on his level that are looking for third contracts, they have almost a season and a half's worth of more carries and touches on their body. We're not seeing a decline in any level of what Austin Eckler can do. Yeah. What he does in the pass game still makes him a viable player. Like, I just don't see a reason why there can't be a 2-year extension added on to this year where he's going into his final year at age 30. And then, yes, at that point, it's like, hey, maybe we do need to do some 1-year heavy incentive-laden deals if you want to stay with the team. Otherwise, move on. But why couldn't you give him an extension with maybe some sort of out after the 2024 season? Like, just so he's happy, he's on the team, and he's going in. Because in the situation that we are currently in right now, we would have, if he was traded, we would have the worst backfield in the entire NFL. And I get that everybody loves passing the ball and that you don't think you need a run game. But unless you think you can pluck Isaiah Pacheco or Tyler Algier or Dameon Pierce late round, which the Chargers have not done. Everybody keeps going, well, he didn't draft Austin Eckler. And the last few backs that he's drafted, can you name one that's given solid NFL production? Like, Melvin Gordon was the last one that he was there.
1,013 yards or something.
But for a first-round pick, you want 1,200, you want 1,600 yards out of that.
Usually for first-round picks, that's the star of your team. That's the idea, I think.
Agreed. So, like, I do think that they will find a way that Austin will be a Charger. He'll get an extension. Some fans will be upset. Why are we paying running backs? It's like, you can't look at Austin Eckler just as a running back. That's just not what he does. He caught 106 passes last year. That's not all that he is. And he's more to the team, I think, locker room leadership and the way that he works.
Mm-hmm. It rubs off. It rubs off on other players for sure.
He's obsessed with preparation and being the ultimate preparer. Like, and you have a chance to keep this person on your team and in your locker room. I don't understand why they wouldn't do it.
And he's a guy that has had all these touches in the pass game and rushing the ball and has stayed healthy through it all. Played through a few injuries, put it all on the line for the Chargers. And now the Chargers aren't going to give him the contract that he seeks. We need Austin Eckler simply because last offseason, and if you look at the Chargers' contracts and cap situation, there's going to be some change after this season and a lot of change the following season after that. our chips are kind of all in. If we're going to win a Super Bowl with this core of players, it's this year or next year. There is no after that because this group of players is going to be on its way out, and it's sad to think about. I know people that are tuned in the chat are going to be sad if we lose Khalil Mack in a couple of years here. Going to be sad if we lose Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. Doesn't seem likely that both those guys are retiring Chargers. It's going to be sad. Joey Bosa eventually is on the move because his contract is so big, it doesn't make sense to keep paying it when he's not on the field as much as would even be on the field. So I think that also, more than anything, we need Eckler for these next couple seasons because we're all in. And to let him go without a replacement identified that's either better or equal value to him is a disservice to the investments that you've made all over your football team over the last couple of seasons.
So this is honestly what I believe, Mike. I think that the Chargers are not willing to even negotiate a contract extension with Eckler until, and I know this could be a lead-in. Do you want you want to talk about the draft?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. If Bijan Robinson is available at 21, I think that would be the stopgap for where they would go, hey, Eckler, there's no contract because we got your replacement going forward. That's a team-friendly deal. And you wouldn't invest that money in Eckler going forward. If they don't end up with that caliber player, I don't see why they would think, oh, we have the guy for sure going in. Unless Kellen Moore is going, hey, I really like Isaiah Spiller, and I know this guy's going to play, and I know how he's going to be used, and I know exactly what I'm going to do to get the most out of this player, and we don't need to invest in this position. But I don't know. I think I would, as a fan, I would need to see that first. We were excited about it last year, and for whatever reason, he didn't get reps over Josh Kelly. They didn't play him in the final week of the season. What's up with that? And I think he's good based on what I saw in college. He ran really tough against good teams in the SEC. He couldn't get any reps last year.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And this is a reason why I'm kind of coming off of my own opinion. And you can call me biased all you want, hypocritical, whatever you want to call me. Only Chargers fans are hearing this anyway, so who cares? Well, and zero. But I've always been against, at least recent years and eras, where if you have a quarterback, you're a pass-first offense, you can draft your running backs in rounds 2, 3, 4, and you can get Alvin Kamara or Dalvin Cook or you name it. A lot of the top backs in the league, are drafted outside the first round. But in the Chargers situation, they've been trying to draft running backs outside the first round. They've been trying to draft a running back for Austin Eckler for years, basically ever since Melvin Gordon left the team, and they have not been able to successfully do it. Melvin Gordon was a miss. Ryan Matthews, if you want to go all the way back to there, I think it was just before Tom Telesco became GM, was a miss. That's too many misses on the same position for you to have faith that you're going to be able to find a guy, that's not already a lock. And Bijan Robinson, everything I've watched, every single tape that I've watched on this guy is a lock, I think, to be an elite player in the NFL and a guy that's going to take our rushing offense, not just to improved, not just to the top 15. We may have one of the best rushing offenses in the league paired with Justin Herbert and all these wide receivers if we pick that man. I really like the idea of getting tight end. I really like Zay Flowers, which is kind of the receiver I've decided on if they do go receiver at 21. But I think, and this is what we marked down as this topic, I think my favorite current draft prospect at number 21 overall is Bijan Robinson, which is crazy for me to say because I don't like the running backs in the first round.
If he's there at 21, it feels like they have to take him.
Right.
I just don't know. If you truly are drafting for best player available, he always says that. Tom's always like, yeah, we're a best player available person, which I don't believe that. I don't believe any GM. I think they take the best player available for a position they need. Well, guess what? If you don't give us an Eckler a contract, you are going to need it because we've gone from Josh Kelly, late round pick, your middle round pick, Larry Roundtree, late round pick, Isaiah Spiller, day 3 pick. That's the flow that it has gone on. And if you pass on Bijan Robinson at 21, to me, that's a miss. Because there's a gap. As good as Breece Hall was last year, I do think coming into the draft, and obviously we don't know, it's all speculation, but Bijan feels like a safer, better, bigger hit than what Breece Hall felt like last year. And that's why Breece and even the guy that I wanted the Chargers to take, Ken Walker, I'm also a Michigan homer, Michigan State homer. I'm sorry, I'm always going to root for those guys. But this one, you can't do it. You can't go like, oh, well, we're going to take the third corner, or we're going to take the second, even the second or third tight end off the board. Like, you would have to take Bijan in that spot. But,
yeah, and there's been some plays that I've seen on his tape, especially in the receiving game, that have even taken him to the next level for me, where he's making tippy toe sideline, NFL level catches with 2 feet in bounds, making one-handed catches as well. I think that if you get this guy, and it makes sense at this point where you're about to have to sign Herbert, and this contract will probably kick in 2024, 2025, that you'll have a running back on a rookie deal until, you have to talk about paying him. And at that point, who knows what the league looks like in 5 years.
Also, too, like
By then, no team has paid a running back since.
Yeah, they outlaw running backs in general from the NFL. You have to go to the XFL and USFL to watch running backs. You're like, I remember back in my day in 2023 when running backs.
The craziest part is that like in the XFL or the USFL, in high school and college, a running back can literally carry your team to a championship. We saw it with Bo Scarborough in the USFL last year.
Oh, 1,000%. Like that's the reason why I didn't play high school football, was just because it was like we played in a team where they're like, we're never going to throw the ball. You're going to play tight end, and you are a 6th offensive lineman. And I was like, that ain't happening, coach. I'm going to keep playing hockey. Like, I don't care. And they're like, yeah, but you'd be so good. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not just going to go smash my face off somebody so that we can get 4 yards with this running back that won't even play Division 18 football. We were so bad. I was not going to. Your
coach is like Joe Lombardi playing for 4th and 1.
Oh, we were brutal. Like, it was just, yeah, never. I don't want to talk about that. What I do want to talk about is this. Imagine Bijan Robinson is drafted in that position. The competition that Eckler is going to put out, right? Because he is somebody who's saying, I've wanted somebody to compete and push me for carries. He hasn't had that. He's going to want to be like, oh, you think you can draft my position in the 1st round? Like, I think that those two guys will push each other, and they do have very similar abilities, right? Bijan is just built in a bigger version of it. Yeah. It's like a 3 series versus a 7 series. They're both Beamers or Mercedes or whatever car analogy I'm trying to use. Like, but it would be crazy to me to see Eckler be like, oh yeah, you think you can do that? Watch this. Watch old boy get in the end zone another 20 times this season, saying, okay, I still got it. You might want to draft this kid, but I still got it.
That is the one thing for Herbert's stat line. That touchdown total is still going to stay low because these guys are going to rush for 20 combined and have 5 each receiving.
Yeah, which ultimately, like, it won't really matter to me, and I don't think it matters to him. And that's the great thing about Justin Herbert is that I don't believe that. I would be shocked if I ever was like, oh, there's rumblings of Justin Herbert being upset about not putting up good numbers. I'd be like, this is an erroneous report. I don't know who put this out there, but this is ridiculous. Like, he wants to cook. There's never going to be a let Justin Herbert cook movement. It won't happen. He's like, you know what? Actually, I like room service. Here, like, just, I don't want to cook at all, ever. Like, I want to win games.
Yeah, we don't ever got to worry about Instagram or Twitter beasts or any of that stuff with Herbert. He's just.
I want to put out
and that's it.
I want to put out something real quick about. I think that one position that's being overlooked is the cornerback position, because Michael Davis is on the last year of his contract, and J.C. Jackson is coming back, and they put out video. Like, I love to see that video of him working. Like, it's very encouraging.
He's a survivor, Tony. Keep going.
He's good, but like that's amazing that like you're in there and like, man, I just want to get back to playing ball. Like, you just want to be able to be out there and
He's got it on.
competing and playing, yes, and figuring it out. So that's good. Problem is like you don't know what the return is going to be like from that knee injury. And so if you have a chance and there's somebody that they really like. Now the cornerbacks might go, it might be Witherspoon and Gonzalez and Joey Porter Jr. gone at that spot. And you're looking at Deonte Banks. And this is something I'd like you, because you do have a lot of familiarity with the cornerback position and stuff like that. Looking at guys like, I think it's Cam Smith from Auburn, or is it maybe getting Branch from Alabama because he's got versatility? I do think that's an opportunity, like a spot to go at right there, like to get somebody in the secondary that's big and can cover and can tackle, because you don't want to be caught the next year with nobody. Like Michael Davis leaves, and then your CB1 is Asante Samuel headed into a contract year.
That's gonna be a big contract after that year as well. So that wouldn't be a good situation.
Yeah, I would assume Asante Samuel is going to get a nice contract somewhere.
Of course, yes. Hopefully with us. Yeah, I agree with you. I think corner could be looked at, and I was just about to say this right before you made that point, so I'm glad you did. Is I feel like we're focusing on running back or wide receiver or tight end, or whatever it might be. The Chargers are in a good spot in the draft again this year. Last year, it was kind of clear that we were going to draft Zion Johnson unless the board fell a certain way and like a Derek Stingley's falling down the board, or someone that Staley really liked was falling down the board. But again, this year, it feels like we're in the perfect position, especially with all the quarterbacks going on early on in the draft. The Chargers are in a good spot where, the best linebacker is probably going to be available, or one of the best linebackers. One of these edge rushers is going to be a steal in the middle of the first round. I don't know who it's going to be that's going to slide, but there's too many paired with the quarterbacks and the tackles for one not to make it close to our pick. That would be, almost an immediate starter who doesn't need to start because we have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. The receivers are still going to be there. The tight ends are still going to be there, at least one of them. Maybe Bijan Robinson is still there. We're in a good spot for this year's draft, Tony. Good spot.
No, I really agree with you, and that's why if I could just have 2 minutes with Tom Telesco, I would be like, please, if the phone rings and somebody wants to trade into 21, trade back, brother. Like, please. Because think about it. He could trade back anywhere between 28, even into the second round. Like, let's say he trades out of the first round and he ends up with somebody at pick 34 wants his pick, and they give him pick, they trade, he gets 34, and then he gets an early third rounder, and then they pick theirs. Like, you could end up with 4 picks inside the top 85 if he could get a second and a third, like an early second and a third from a team who wants to move up to 21. And now all of a sudden they're sitting there and they could go maybe Mayer Falls. Now you get a good tight end who can get open, but also adds in the block. Maybe Darnell Washington, the guy that I would love for them to drop back and get. Maybe he falls into that territory there. But then you can also look at bigger cornerbacks with another one of those picks. You could be looking at Keely Ringo from Georgia. Like, get yourself a big tackling defensive back. You could look for edge rushers like the guy that I want to be on the team, Derek Hall from Auburn. Like, add these pieces that are like high performance college players at what they did. Like, no more projects. Like, people keep going like, ooh, the Chargers, Will McDonald. He's like 238 pounds, Mike. Or like Nolan Smith. Like, these guys, they're really, really fast. But what if the speed is just eliminated from a tight end chipping or a running back? Like, hey, they got speed over there. We'll help on that side.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many situations a season do you need an edge rusher to run from opposite to the other side to get the quarterback? That's the only time the speed is really going to help you too much in this situation. It could help you with your like get off and maybe for pursuit, all that kind of stuff is fine and dandy. But when it comes to the NFL, the best guys are the finesseful guys.
Yeah,
And
I think there's a good mixture of it. I think that whatever it is, you have to be elite at it, right? You got to have elite power like Bruce Smith and Reggie White and those guys, or you got to have elite speed like the Von Millers and the Dwight Freeneys and that you got to be able to really have that. Whatever, what's the word? Twitchy twitched up athletes or whatever I keep hearing on all these podcasts. You got to be able to have that movement. That's just like next level. No 315-pound offensive lineman is gonna be able to get his arm out there on you.
All of these speedy edge rushers where that's kind of their strength and that's their highlight and that's what's standing out. They need to look at Micah Parsons, do what that man's done to develop his game and get as good as he's gotten. Well, Tony, we did it. We talked about everything off season. Athir had something in here. Sorry, I got to address it.
Athir had a couple things in here. Athir, I hope you're doing well, brother. I hope your springtime is nice.
Athir said we got to take him out to dinner because of what he told us back in November. He did. I do remember him saying this, actually. He said, OC, Kellen Moore, book it.
Yeah, and we made fun of him. Like, I'm glad that he doesn't have social media because he would have a clip of us, like, trolling him for saying that. We're like, he's already on a team, and he's a head coaching candidate. Why would he end up with the Chargers offensive coordinator? Athir, go ahead and put that one on your bulletin board, buddy. That's a big dub for you.
Future. But Athir is Staley's biggest fan, and I would like to know Athir's thoughts on blowing the 27-0 lead.
Athir, I have really tried, really tried, and then the more that things long, I just get more and more frustrated. So I love Coach, and I'm here to support him, but I'm just going to keep my comments at that.
Yeah, me too. And that's why this question is also even more interesting. Who should the Chargers draft? Are the Chargers drafting for one season, trying to save your job, or are the Chargers drafting for 5 seasons forward? We'll see. We'll find out.
It should be offensive, though, Mike. Like, it should be Dalton Kincaid or, like, whoever they identify as, like, this person is going to play contributing snaps on our offense. If it's Zay Flowers, we know he has the relationship with Kirby Smart at Georgia, and that's why I keep coming back to Darnell Washington. Even if he doesn't have the production at the wide receiver, you know what he's going to bring you in a 12 personnel with him and Everett or him. Imagine him and Parham. That's a freaking basketball team right here. And Mike Williams all on one side. The shortest guy is 6'4". Come on, Herbert's gonna have tons of options over there.
Yeah, with your 6'6" quarterback as well. I mean, it's getting crazy now with the size advantage that we'll have on offense.
Looks like a dwarf at 6'3", standing in that huddle of gentlemen.
Yeah, and I think that there's a chance Darnell Washington could fall because of that lack of production. We're kind of lucky with him if the Chargers are targeting him that there's so many tight ends that have the receiving production to go with it. So it's already put there on the table, on tape, that these guys are going to be freaks.
Yeah, he feels like Bill Belichick's going to take him at 14 and just transition him to offensive tackle. Like he's just we drafted Darnell Washington and he's now listed at offensive tackle in the Patriots program guide. He's
Trent Williams plus 3 inches somehow.
Yeah. Like it'll look like on their with their depth chart, it'll be right tackle is, and I forget who their right tackle is in New England. But then Darnell Washington will be RT2. Like that's what it'll be on the depth chart. Won't even see tight end. And then Hunter Henry will be in their 12 personnel will be on the other side of him.
He actually could do it. Well, Tony, we did it. Bolt up. Let's get ready for the 2023 season. I'm super excited for the season to start already. Whew.
Yeah, I would like to get back together at some point again before the draft and take a look at some of these other players that are still out there, because like Kyle Van Noy that was on the team last year, I don't believe he's signed anywhere yet. At least I feel like I would have seen it. Bryce Callahan.
Still available.
Yeah. So and then beyond that, there are some other really key free agents that I think are fun to talk about and could be fun to root for on the Chargers next year.
Yeah, they were really active post-draft last year, so I'd like to see that again as well. Just guys that are not really going to affect the cap too much. They're around for a short amount of time. To lose 27-0, but as a Chargers fan, this is not the worst loss. Sadly, you're right. Anyways, we won't talk about any more Chargers losses because there's a long list of them. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to this one. If you guys didn't catch the beginning of the show, we talked about everything from the 27-0 to the departures, to the additions, to the NFL draft, Herbert's contract, Eckler's contract, everything in between. Please rewind if you just tuned in and watch the replay back and pop it in your ear while you're getting ready for WrestleMania tonight. I'm sure Tony's excited for WrestleMania, right?
I don't know. Hey, Carlos. How are you? I don't think I said hi. 0, thank you. Cheers, everybody.
Doesn't care about WrestleMania. We'll see.
Out of here.
We'll see you guys next time we're live. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications on so the way it notifies you when we set it up and get it going. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.